What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is me, the Casual Card Gamer, and today we're going to be looking at the best deck of the overdress format, Eugene. I don't know what to say. I love this deck, and I tried my best to make it work, so let's get straight into what this deck looks like. Alright, so starting with the ride deck, we have Bart, Nigel, Randor, and Eugene. The most normal sounding names in Vanguard, I feel. But anyway, so we're going to start off with Bart. If you go second, you draw a card. That's it. Next we have Nigel. So Nigel's ability is when he's rode upon by Randor, Cataclysmic Bullet of Dust Storm Randor. You can soul charge one. I don't know how many times I have accidentally soul charged my over trigger. I believe 2 games in a row when I was playtesting, I soul charged my over trigger and it sucked. But its second ability is when a rear guard is retired during your main phase. When one of your opponent's rear guards is retired during your main phase, you can counterblast 1 to retire him and then retire another one of your opponent's rear guards. So this is pretty good in terms of synergy with Eugene. It does happen right as you retire one of your opponent's units, so it's just a chain effect basically. And yeah. Next we have Randor. When he is rode upon by Eugene, you can choose a card from your drop zone and put it into your soul, so it does give you another another push in terms of soul, so you can automatically go into your Eugene 5 Soul Blast ability. But its second ability is as a vanguard or a rear guard, when you attack, you can counterblast 1 if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards. Then you soul charge 1 and Randor gets plus 5k until the end of that battle. And last but not least, this week's flavor, we have Heavy Artillery of Dust Storm Eugene. It always takes me a second to get the words out of my mouth properly for this name. But anyway, his first ability is once per turn, you can rest 2 of your rear guards to retire one of your opponent's rear guards, and he gets plus 10k. And second ability is once per turn, if a rear guard was retired, if one of your opponent's rear guards were retired, you can Soul Blast 5. Look at cards from the top of your deck equal to the open circles your opponent has, and then call as many as you want to the field, and then put the rest into the soul. So Eugene's ability is okay. I wouldn't say that it is the best, because it is probably not the best ability, because the soul charging in this deck is not the fastest, and also its requirement that you have to retire things is not that bad, but the ways to get there are a little costly, or at least were a little costly in D-BT01. But with D-BT02, we have a little more wiggle room in terms of what we're able to do and what we're able to use to retire our opponent's rear guards with. But anyway, that is Eugene. And moving into the main deck, guess what? We have another 3 copies of, you guessed it, Eugene. I'm not going to go over his abilities because we already know what he does. And next, of course, we run the 4 copies of Penetrate Dragon Tribash. Its ability is when your Vanguard attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, you can put Tribash into the soul, and your Vanguard gets 1 crit. So it's really nice, cheeky thing to do at a first grade 3 turn. Just put down a Tribash, swing with it, then swing with Eugene, then Tribash goes into the soul. If your opponent's field isn't that big, then it's a 23k attack out of the gate with a crit. And of course, later in the game as well, it does add a little bit more pressure when your opponent's at that 4 damage threshold. But anyway, that's it for the grade 3s of this deck. Next, moving into the grade 2s, the best piece of support that we got from D-BT02 for Eugene, and then some returning cast members. Alright, so the first grade 2 that we're going to be talking about is Strong Fortress Dragon Girabrachio. I don't know why I had to say it so many times. But anyway, its first ability is Act. If your Vanguard is Eugene, you can rest it, Soul Blast 1, and retire one of your opponent's rear guards. It's very, very nice. It's just very straightforward. Rest, Soul Blast 1, retire. Now, it does make it a little more difficult to activate Eugene's skills, but with this D-BT02 support, you get the feeling that the deck relies less on using Eugene's actual ability and more of just field wiping, board wiping your opponent almost every turn. So Girabakio really does that well. And its second ability is at the beginning of your battle phase, if your opponent only has one rear guard, then you can stand it and it gets +5 until the end of turn, which is really nice because it by itself can hit for 15k at minimum. And next we have Stealth Rogue of Ironblade Oshikuni. When it attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, it gets +5, very straightforward. And we have Somophagy Dragon Hungersaurus. Its ability is during your turn it gets +5k, but if your opponent has a front row rear guard, you cannot use it to attack the vanguard. So that is a bit of a trade-off. I have had a couple of issues with Hungersaurus, but it is a resourceless +5k, unlike using Randor, who needs to counterblast to get that to work. So yeah, that's it for the grade 2s, just a bunch of beaters, and it is very fun. Next, we move into the grade 1s. So of course we have our perfect guards. I'm going to leave those in the corner because we already know what those do, and I'm not going to go over them. Next, we run 3 Drag Ritter Idris Elbas, 3 Embodiment of Armor bars, and 3 copies of Stealth Dragon Kizan Reiji. So, starting with Idris, he is the double R, one of the double Rs from D-BT02, if you guys didn't already know. And its ability is, during the turn, one of your opponent's rear guards has retired. You can counterblast 1 and activate one of 2 abilities. The first one, he gets +10, and the second one, he goes into the soul, and you can choose another thing to retire. So it's almost like Nigel, except that it doesn't have to be right as you retire. It can be any time within that turn. And instead of retiring himself, he goes into the soul. So it helps with getting up to that 5 soul requirement, or it can just reload your soul for more Girabakio plays, or for Kizan Reiji, which we'll get into very, very shortly. Next, we have Embodiment of Armor bar. Now, I was running the 10k booster just because I love 10k boosters, but the thing is, with the grade 2s being 15k attackers, there isn't very much point in having the extra 2k unless your opponent's vanguard for some reason is 15k on your turn. And its ability is, when your vanguard's attack hits, it gets +5k. So it becomes a 13k booster potentially, and it kicks your rear guard attacks from 23 to 28, and that becomes, you know, an extra card out of your opponent's hand, which is nice. And Stealth Dragon Kizan Reiji, I run 3 copies, and its ability is once per turn you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1 to retire one of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as Kizan Reiji. Now it's really nice because you can rest it with Eugene's skill and 1 other unit to retire 1, then you can still activate its ability to retire 2, and then if you have Girabakio, that's 3 units off of your opponent's field. And of course, Idris is also really good at just wiping the rest of the field. And that is it for the grade 1s. All right, and now let's go into the triggers. First, we have Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Drag Veda, 100 million, draw a card, remove it from the game, and your Vanguard restands. It's really nice. Next, we have 4 crits because crits are fun, 4 fronts because 20k shields are fun, 3 draws because drawing an extra card when you didn't think you would be able to is great, and 4 heals because 6 damage healing is wonderful. And that is it for this week's deck profile, guys. I will be streaming this later tonight as of release, but I'm not sure exactly what time I'll be able to do it. There are a couple of family functions that I have to do and some work, so it might be a little later than the usual time, but hopefully I will be able to catch you guys there. Anyway, I am Jello the Casual Card Gamer. Make sure to subscribe, like, tell your friends if you think that they'll like the stuff that we got going on the channel. Leave your comments and suggestions down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. This is me, Jello the Casual Card Gamer. Take care.